Welcome to Protea Conversations, the podcast where leadership in business and accounting isn't just discussed, it's explored. I'm your host, Zane Stevens, and thank you for joining me as we delve into the minds of some of the most influential leaders in the industry. Our journey is one of discovery, from unraveling the unique stories that shaped our guests' careers to the invaluable advice that fueled their success. We are here to provide you with simple, actionable advice to accelerate your career and personal growth. Whether you're a budding professional or a seasoned executive, these conversations are designed to offer insight and perspectives that resonate with everyone. So tune in, engage, and be inspired as we build better leaders together. Welcome to Protea Conversations. Today we're joined by Victor McKnight, Vice President of Business Development at Risk Strategies Company. Vic is an employee benefits broker and consultant with Risk Strategies and based in Santa Rosa, California. His clients range from family-run businesses with 20 employees to large non-profit and for-profit organizations with 500-plus employees. His team specializes in designing benefit plans that meet their clients' financial goals while attracting and retaining quality employees. Victor is an active member of his community, serving on various boards, including as a trustee of Mark West Union School District. Vic is also a great family man, a good friend, and somebody who spends way too much time on the golf course.
How did I know that was going to come up early?
It had to. It's part of your personality, me talking about how much golf you play.
You know, Zane, I could be accused but never convicted of that one. But I like the thought of it. I hope to retire someday and actually fulfill those dreams.
You know, I can just keep putting it out there in the atmosphere with the hope that it comes true for you.
Great. Thank you, Zane. Appreciate it.
Great. So, we go into there. You're, at the end of the day, an employee benefits specialist. What does that even mean?
You know, what that means is I work with employers and their employees to make sure that a couple things. One is that we design benefit packages that work for the organization as far as a budget standpoint, but also from retaining and attracting key employees and quality employees. And for the employees, that they are affordable and usable and they're able to get everything that they are putting into it, because really at the end of it all, the employee's buying the plan because it's part of their overall compensation. If the employer is paying for a portion or all of it, in fact, the employee is still purchasing it because it's part of their compensation, and they need to get out what they deserve from that plan. And that is a big part of what we do every day. I talk to either somebody on my team or myself talks to an employee or receives an email every single day, and making sure that they're served well and that they understand and are able to use their benefit packages.
Yeah, it's such an interesting world. If you come out of like college or university or even high school, it's hard to sort of think about employee benefits and what that even means. And, I think I know automatically when I hear employee benefits, the first thing I think is health insurance. But I know there's more to it than just that. So is that something sort of your main focus, or are there other employee benefits that you guys focus in on?
Well, for many organizations, employee benefits is the second largest line item on the P&L statement, as you well know. And the biggest part of employee benefits, you nailed it. It's medical insurance, but it's also dental. It's also the life insurance, disability, maybe voluntary benefits, vision. And then sometimes we delve into key executive benefits and even long-term care and supporting executives in those areas.
Very interesting. So Vic, how did you get into this space? Because I don't know anybody that I was in high school that was like, hey, I want to sell employee benefits one day. I want to be a consultant in the employee benefits space. So how did that come about?
You know, I've only met one person that in college said that they wanted to become one, that they wanted to get in our business. So I think you're right. People fall into a lot of different businesses, and one of them is health insurance. It's funny, I had a good friend working for an HMO about 30 years ago, and he was such a good friend that he was actually in my wedding. And I was getting married on a Saturday, and he called and said, hey, we've got an opening in our accounting department that I think you'd be perfect with. I gave your resume to somebody, and he's going to be calling you. And so he did, and we couldn't figure out a time to meet that week because, of course, it was pretty busy for me. And so I said, hey, Mike, why don't we meet on Saturday morning? He goes, you're getting married Saturday. Of course, being a guy, I said, well, not till 4:30. And so we actually met at 8 o'clock on my wedding day. And that's how I landed my first job in the health insurance business. And, and I was in the accounting department, working with clients a little bit on their billing issues when those bubbled up to become a problem. But they thought that I might be better in client facing than I was in the accounting department. So I actually moved into account management and then into sales on the carrier side, working for carriers. Did that for about 10 years. And about 20 years ago, I had worked with brokers all over the state and decided that I really liked that side of it, working with the clients, working with the employees, making sure designing benefit packages that actually worked. And so I moved over to the brokerage side, and that's when I moved to Santa Rosa from the Bay Area, for more of the Central Bay Area. Came up to Santa Rosa and started raising our family up here.
Very interesting. So you were in accounting before you got into the insurance world?
I was, and yeah, you did not know that, did you?
Well, I sort of knew that, but not. I didn't know the depth of it, and that's what we're going to find out today. So, how long were you in the accounting world before you moved into the insurance world?
Just a few years, and I never went. I never went I had a business degree, not necessarily an accounting degree. Never had planned on going to become a CPA or anything like that. It's just that I would end up in accounting and finance typically. That was kind of I felt my strength was at.
I mean, was that the plan to just like pursue the accounting career and sort of see where it took you?
Probably. Yeah. Though I was still, this is when I was, in my 20s, and I was still trying to figure out, where my business career would go.
Okay. So let's get even back. Like, what was the idea? What was the plan when you went to college? You got a business degree, but how did that come about? How did you make that decision?
Seemed like, I liked numbers. I liked business. Um, a little bit ashamed to say this, but I loved the movie Wall Street. And I think I had originally wanted to become, Gordon Gekko, if you would, and go to Wall Street and make a name for myself there. Of course, that's a little bit harder from the Bay Area to do. And I was still trying to, but that was kind of, I love that finance. And I did enjoy sales. I did enjoy people, and ended up in a more of a consulting sales type role.
Yeah. Really interesting, but it does show that if you've got that business degree with some sort of an accounting background, it really is a good basis to take you sort of wherever you feel like it's you best suited to be at that, after the case. Do you think that? No, go for it.
Understanding a balance sheet is important in business, and those who can delve into that can understand and talk to CFOs and HR people in a different way.
No, for sure. I mean, I've been putting this out there a lot at the moment that I think everybody should be taking an accounting 101 bookkeeping introduction type course so they can understand the very simple basics, how to read a balance sheet, how to read a profit and loss. Goodness, if they could read a cash flow statement, I think it would make a big difference as well. But just having those simple knowledge, because there's a lot of people out there with wonderful ideas, good business acumen, but they don't really understand how to make things profitable. And I think a lot more people will be successful if they could just really understand the basics.
Actually, in starting with our youth and in school, maybe teaching them how to balance a checkbook would be a good start as well.
Yeah, I don't know how to balance a checkbook, mostly. So,
my guess is you could figure it out, Zane.
I could probably figure it out, but my wife's always like, keep track of where you sent those checks. I'm like, I'm not very good at that one. I obviously grew up in a world of, direct transfers and credit cards, so I can balance those really, really well.
Okay, good.
But yeah, I mean, I get the point. Getting people those basic, life skills, those things that everybody has to do on a daily basis, can make a really big difference. And I obviously focus it mainly from an accounting standpoint, but there's a lot of people putting out great content out there on just being able to balance your own life, manage your own finances. And a lot of the time it rolls into the type of career that you're dealing in, and people that have to really think about it is those what you call employee benefits, but a lot of the time are required pieces of the paper that are needed by every individual to survive, like health insurance, right?
Sure.
pretty hard to be out there without health insurance, unless you've got a ton of money to self-insure, which is obviously the vast majority of us are not in that situation.
Most who can choose not to anyway. The dollars don't make sense, even as expensive as health insurance is. And when I started in the industry, we were choosing between $5 copays and $10 copays, and 100% hospitalization or a $250 copay if you went into the hospital. And obviously now the plans are much more complicated, high deductibles, co-insurance, separate prescription deductibles, health savings accounts, and really puts a huge burden on employees to try to learn how to navigate this. You hope people aren't surprised when they actually end up in the emergency room and they get a $6,000.
Yeah, and you've said this now a few times as we've been talking, and it's not a message that you hear a lot of time that those benefits are my benefit. As if I'm the employee, it's my responsibility to understand them. It's my responsibility to understand what I'm signing up for. And I think there's sometimes a little bit of a confusion in there. Well, it's an employee benefit, so it's on the employer to give me that information. But I know from knowing the sort of way you guys operate, there's a lot of education that goes into it to try educate those employees at those employers that you represent on, hey, this is what your options are, this is what you're signing up for, and this is what it means. Can you sort of talk about that educational side of it and how you guys go about making sure that employees make the right decisions?
Yeah, we approach it in a number of different ways. One is, for many of our employers, we customize benefit brochures. So their benefit brochures that talk about their benefits are all in one package, one brochure, kind of like a magazine, if you will, that they can flip through and compare the plans. And then the way we present them in that is oftentimes what comes out of the insurance carriers is complex. It's difficult to read. Some of it's government regulated that it has to be done in a certain format, and it's not very easy to figure out if you're not if you're not used to looking at it. So we try to transfer that into an easy, understandable format. So that's one way and then we love to do either in person or more often now these types of meetings over a virtual meeting where we can record it, put it out onto the company's website, their internal website, email it out, and also provide it there for the spouse because, you mentioned your spouse balancing your checkbook. Similar here. Oftentimes, the other person in the relationship is the person that's managing the healthcare. And if that person has access to the same information that the employee has, and we actually encourage them to forward that email with that recording to them and maybe the paper information as well. It's helpful for them ahead of time. And then if things come up throughout the year, we're there for the whole year, as I said, getting those calls, getting those emails from the employees and helping them with it. I have an employee who just retired who thanked me for over the years supporting her and answering her questions. I've known her for, I've happened to been working with that client for 16 years. It's my oldest client. It's a large nonprofit in San Francisco. And there's a number of employees that have my cell phone that look forward to seeing me once a year at their employer, but have no problem calling me with questions.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm not sure if I could just call my broker up. I mean, one, they'd be like, why is your wife not calling me? But two, I definitely don't think they give us free access. I think there's a little helpline. So that is pretty unique, something that you offer. And I know the sort of people around you offer as well, just that access and be able to answer those questions. How often do you think you have to answer questions from employees on their package, not just through the open enrollment processes, but just in general throughout the year?
I would probably say per week, me and my team get probably at least a dozen emails from clients directly on their benefits, at least a dozen, and we split those up depending on the subject matter. I happen to know a lot about transitioning to Medicare, so I tend to field those types of calls. HSAs are another strong point. There are other areas where Jessica, Ron, or Barbara might have a certain expertise, and I might pass it off to them, and they may contact the client.
So totally loaded probably question, but we'll see how you do with it. How many people do you think have questions but don't ever reach out and ask the questions.
Way more than ask. And that's why, I learned this from a broker I worked with when I was on the carrier side. He would pass out his pen to each employee during open enrollment. That was when we used to fill out paper forms, and it had his phone number on it. And so every time at open enrollment, I start out the open enrollment meeting saying, I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you. We're going to talk about a lot of concepts, and you're going to retain a certain percentage of that because it's a lot of information. The one piece I want you to walk away from today is that you have a team of people who are here to support you to make sure you get everything out of this health plan that you and your employer are paying for. And if we're going to pass out a benefit guide today, you have that. Our phone numbers are in it. If you lose it, your HR team has our number. So if you need a new ID card, call the carrier. They're great at doing those. But if you're banging your head against the wall, if you're frustrated, I want a phone call and I want to know why. I don't want to hear about it at the next open enrollment meeting 6 months after you've had the problem. We want to address that problem because, frankly, when I call a carrier, I call people I've known for 10, 15 years. And I know these people. I know the language because every industry has their own language, right?
Correct.
I know the language. I know probably what the problem is where you might not. You tell me what's going on. I probably know what happened, and we're able to work that out on your behalf. And you know what? Sometimes they don't like the answer. Sometimes the answer is no, that's not a covered claim, or no, unfortunately, that wasn't an in-network provider. But most of the time, we're able to get them a response that they appreciate and that solves the issue, and they normally win in the situation.
You've been describing a very client-centric approach, which 100% not all brokers operate this way. Why? Why do you take this approach?
Well, I take it because, you start with how would you want to be treated? And when I started in this industry, I had been on the carrier side. I'd seen what worked for brokers, what helped, what the position of the employees were in. And like I mentioned, that it was a lot less complex back then. The government wasn't so much involved. There wasn't so much regulation. The plans were easier to understand. But I patterned myself after a few brokers I'd watched be real successful and build long-term relationships with their clients. And I didn't want to bring in 12 new clients and lose 8 ones every year. We have a really high retention rate. I rarely lose a client unless it's for something like, hey, we've been acquired. That's by far the most times when we lose a client that they've somehow either closed their doors or they've been acquired by another organization. And sometimes we're successful about keeping the client even when that happens.
I mean, that right there is just a testament to what a great job you're doing, how client-centric you are being, which I know people really appreciate. All the people I've spoken to that work with you or your team, they're always very thankful for the quality of service they read. So that is great. What are you doing to help your clients at the moment manage this exponentially growing cost of health insurance?
This past renewal season for January 1 was a rough year. Kaiser's increases, most of them ranged between 15 and 25%. And that was that was a big increase from where they were. It's only been a few years ago where they were passing out quite a few single-digit rate increases. And all the carriers are increasing a little bit more. Unfortunately, I think some of it's shadow pricing. Is, well, if Kaiser's going up, that allows us to go up too. They tend to be a market leader there as far as what companies are trying to follow. But we've done a number of different programs, one of which is looking at high deductible plans and then reimbursing, giving the employees a debit card to pick up claims underneath that deductible. It creates a little more complexity, both for the employee and the employer. But frankly, the plans were already pretty complex for employees. So It does create a little bit more complexity, but we've been able to actually many times, improve benefits while reducing the cost for both the employee and the employer. Had a couple big successes where we've saved a large company that has about 150 employees, 6 figures this year. as far as being able to do it while improving the benefits a little bit.
That's incredible, seeing that most of us are paying more and getting less at this point in time.
Yeah, we're trying not to have that happen.
What is, outside of health insurance, what is the number one benefit that you help place for your clients?
Well, dental tends to be very popular, but dental is trading dollars. The most you're going to cover is a couple $1,000 a year, maybe $2,500 if you have a great dental plan. And then, if you need an implant, it's $5. Orthodontia is $6 or $7 now. It's really trading dollars with an insurance company. That's not insurance. So the insurance that, I just presented it to a client that didn't have it, and I told them it was the second most important benefit they can provide is long-term disability. It's not that expensive. Might be $15 to $30 an employee per month, but it's going to cover them for 67% of their income until they are either able to go back to work or hit Social Security or retirement age. Here in California does a pretty good job on our state disability. So that covers us a year. So if a 45-year-old goes skiing this winter, breaks their back and can't work anymore, what happens? They're going to go a year of state disability, then they're going to apply for Social Security disability, which is not very good and typically declines you for the first year until you get an attorney and press it. And instead, you have an insurance company for a pretty small dollar figure, less than a dental premium typically, will cover that employee up until Social Security retirement age, or when they're able to go back to work. So that's my second favorite. And then we, of course, the life insurance is also important, but most employees should probably have life insurance outside of their employer because we do change jobs, and that's something you want to have. Back to the disability insurance is very expensive to purchase on the open market, so very few employees can purchase it, while term life insurance is very inexpensive, and they should probably own that outside of their employers.
Okay, what is the most interesting benefit that you've helped place to one of your clients?
I'm going to talk about one that I purchased, I guess, about when I got into being a broker, so that would have been a little less than 20 years ago. I purchased a long-term care policy because they did a group long-term care policy, and I have this great benefit that you can't purchase anymore. So probably not the best example for people listening to this, but it's a policy that I would not be able to purchase right now out there. And long-term care is an area where I think it's a area where we need to face as a society as a big issue. And California's talking about putting a plan in place, and that may be expensive for some of your listeners.
Yeah, definitely something we should all be considering, especially as we see everybody just living older and older, and maybe I'll just start living faster and not have to worry about it.
There we go. That's a great idea.
Just keep having fun and end it early, right?
There we go.
Vic, can you share with us what your normal day looks like? What does the day-to-day of Vic McKnight look like?
Sure, either in person or in a setting like this. I'm talking to a client, advising them on their health insurance plans. Today, we met with an employer who is looking at moving into self-funding, and we brought an expert in that represents an organization that helps clients do that. And we talked to them and spent about an hour talking about what that would look like, what the pros and the cons, and how that might impact them and allow them to meet some goals that they're trying to meet as far as providing benefits to their employees. And then I might be out meeting with our carriers to continue to build relationships so we're able to solve problems for our clients.
Don't forget about the daily round of golf, right?
I'm striving for it. I didn't meet my goal last year.
So let's be honest. How much golf do you play a year? How many rounds? What did you do last year?
I can't. Well, there's an app that tracks it, and I played about 75 rounds.
That's a pretty decent amount.
That's a lot. That's a decent amount of golf. And
I have a
standing. I have a standing golf time on Saturday mornings that I play with the same group of guys. It's a big time gambling thing. We each throw $20 in the pot, I did really well last week. I came out with $60. So, but same group of guys that I play with every week, and then try to sprinkle a little bit extra golf in throughout the year.
Yeah, I think at my peak I was playing 5 rounds every 4 weeks, so not too far off that
Yeah.
number of years. So,
Yeah.
what is that, like 65 maybe
Yeah.
rounds?
Yeah. That's about that. That's not bad.
Yeah. So
That's great.
I think it's a totally acceptable amount of golf.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I don't have small kids at home anymore. My kids are all grown. My last one just finished college, so I'm feeling really nice, really great about that. So I have a little bit more time on my hands.
Yeah, and I'm sure your wife's like, get out there.
Absolutely.
Don't bother me too much.
I've seen enough of you.
Great. So you went from college to accountant to the health benefit / employee benefit world. And I like saying health benefit because that is such a big part and a big important part of it.
It is.
But there must have been some challenges along the way from where you started to where you are now. Can you share some of your biggest challenges along the way, either personal or professionally?
I think where I grew, and early on in my career, I tried to keep everything on my desk, tried to do everything and be everything to all people. And as I grew, I realized how selfish that was. It was selfish, to me, where I was spending way too much time on just work in general. And two, that wasn't helping to develop my teams around me and develop younger people on and supporting their growth. So I think one of the areas I've gotten much better at is delegating. I hate that word. But working together with a team to make sure we solve the problems and allowing other people to own their positions and trust that they're going to get it done and help them to just mentoring them to how to better their career.
Yeah, it's clearly, from everything you've said up to this point, it's been very good and helpful for your clients as well. You mentioned a few times how, depending on who has the expertise, those are the person answering the questions. And that's a great pool that anybody is able to pull on to have the people that are specialists. I mean, I know if things pop up in my inbox in certain topics that I know somebody in my team is stronger for, I'll drop them a message and be like, hey, please help me out. Like, give me the feedback. I don't know anything. And it can be a tough lesson. And I know it can lead to working way too many hours because it's sort of like you don't trust other people to get the job done.
And I know one of the things you do is you talk to other accountants. And that's probably more prevalent in your industry than in my industry. But I spent an hour this morning with somebody who competes with the same against for the same clients that I compete for, and we spent an hour talking about Kaiser, talking about some different how she's helping her clients and how I'm helping my clients. And if I run into one of her clients, I'm going to tell them that they're with a great broker, and unless they have a real problem that they need to be. And I know she's done the same for me. But having those competitors who you can lean on to help you with certain situations is also very valuable.
Yeah, I always say it's important to know who those people are because there are going to be cases that show up that you just can't help them for whatever reason. That's the way life goes sometimes, and it's nice to be able to turn to somebody you trust and make sure that person's getting the good help, because you never know, right? That person, like you said, you move employers all the time, so that person could move over to another employer and they remember you for doing them a solid, and then they reach out to you for the next project that could be bigger and better.
Absolutely.
Great. Is there any piece of advice that you wish you sort of knew, that now, that you wish you knew when you first started out, that would have helped you along your way?
I wish I would have understood how to create a business plan for myself, because we all are business owners. If you're a shareholder in your organization or you're not, you're a business owner of your career. And really planning out what I was going to do throughout the year and how I was going to reach my goals. Most people set goals and hope to figure out how to get there instead of really putting the steps into place on how they're going to reach it and how they're going to do it on a weekly basis and a daily basis. And I spent some time, probably about 10 years ago, on this area. And I wish I would have known that earlier. And I talked to younger brokers and younger executives in that. And I was really creating that plan throughout the year.
Yeah, that seems to be a topic that's coming up a lot lately when I'm talking to people, that they wish they had received more coaching or mentoring throughout their career at younger stages. There's just a lot of gaps, not really understanding where they need to go. Like, I mean, most of us, I think, we just fall into things. Like, I mean, you fell into your career.
Yeah.
I definitely fell into my career, and there's not like a, let me go and search people that can help me run an accounting firm. Like, that website doesn't really exist, right? It requires you to go reach out. But if there are people that you can talk to in your own space, or even people who have been successful in business, I mean, it's not necessarily that you're going to fall in front of those people all the time. Nowadays I'm very thankful. I part of some good networking environments where I get to meet people that have had really successful careers, and I can ask the questions, listen to what they have to share my own experiences. But you have to find those, and it's not easy. And I don't really know what the answer is around it or how to make it a better environment, but there's probably a business opportunity there for somebody to create a better mentoring network to help some of these younger professionals sort of move through their careers in a less bumpy way, and maybe even keep them in these careers that maybe don't look so exciting from the outside.
Yeah, I think the mentees have to really be deliberate about it. But I think there's something else going on right now that is a bigger issue for this, for mentoring, is virtual work. If we're all working, there was one thing, pre-pandemic. I live in the north end of Santa Rosa. We had an office in Petaluma. We still do. And I was driving down there past another office we had because my team was all located in Petaluma. And I found it valuable to be around my team all day long. Could have asked for an office up here, chose not to. And there was a lot of collaboration that would happen. I would be walking by a cube, I'd hear somebody on the phone, I would go, hey, this is something that I can help them with when they get off the phone, and say, hey, I overheard this, let's talk about it. Or they could just pop into my office and ask a question. That we've lost some of that in the virtual work environment. And I know some organizations are requiring people to come back to work, but I don't see my team every day. And so it's back to, you have to be very deliberate. But I'm not sure how good I am at this. I know that there are team members that I work with that are not getting the same as they would if we were all in the same office. And that's talking about a business that somebody can turn into. I think that is for the HR consultants in the world trying to figure out how to mentor the next generation in a virtual work environment.
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. And obviously, you and I have had discussions around this before, and somebody who owns a fully virtual company have slightly different takes on all of this. But I do get the point. And it does come down to the people that have been there wanting to be deliberate and share their information. Because I've been in office environments where nobody will give you anything. They'll just sit there. They've got all the information in the world. It didn't matter if I sat on their lap; they're not going to tell me any good information, right? So it does become the situation on how do we create opportunities for people to have conversations, and I think that problem exists in a remote as well as an office environment. If people aren't willing to share, and if people are scared to ask questions, and sometimes, obviously it does start there. If you're somebody coming up in your career, the more questions you can ask, the better you will be. There's no doubt about that, because you will get people talking if you ask them questions, especially if you ask them questions about themselves or their experience. It's human nature. People cannot help themselves. They will share, they will show off a little bit, and there will be some really good insight for you to learn from. And it's just trying to figure out, how do we get people to have conversations these days? And sometimes it might not even be it's the office versus no office, but it's the attachment to our technology versus attachment to building relationships with people around us.
That's great.
Can you give me some thoughts on what are your near-term, mid-tier term goals for yourself professionally and personally?
Personally this year, it's about health for me. I've been changing my diet, changing that type of thing. A lot of people, it's not January anymore, but, everybody starts the year off with that, and exercise and health. So personally, that's my big goal for the year. Along with, I guess, a different one is as my wife and I are moving into the empty nest stage, making sure that we're planning out how we're going to live the next 10, 20, 30 years of our life, and how we're able to hopefully we continue to like each other after the kids are all gone and the pressure of raising kids is off us. And then my goal for this year is, we just went through a change in organizations where we as a team had found a new home and a new organization to work with. And our old company that we worked for sold us to another organization. And there's some integration there. That happened October 1st. What I want to do is a couple things. One is help my team members with what their career paths are going to be. There are a lot of doors have just opened for people in our office. Our organization, Risk Strategies, has about 25 people here in Sonoma County. A couple of them live in Napa, but in Sonoma County we have about 20, 25 people, and there's a few people that I think are going to really have opportunities with this new large organization, and help them in that area, and then integrate the new services we have, because we're every day learning about new services that we can provide our clients and how we can support them in a better way.
Yeah, that's great. One of my big fears is always when my kids leave the house that my wife's going to kick me out at the same time. She'll just keep me around because she likes the kids.
You know what? Keep dating your wife like you did before you had kids, and you'll be fine. If you end up not.
I'm not sure that was a good thing before either. Advice, I trapped her.
Sounds like marriage counseling might be on the books.
But
gosh. For somebody who's been married 30 years, in a few months, I would say that that's the best. Wife comes first, kids come second. Or spouse comes first, kids come second.
A little bit of an extra bonus, fantastic advice from the life of Vic, the guy who gets to play 70 rounds of golf and still keeps his wife happy.
Obviously, she's a saint if she's married to me. So that's it. Choosing the right one is oftentimes important.
Yep, or making them make the silly decision to choose us. That also works out pretty well for us.
We've all been in sales one point or the other, right?
Exactly. Vic, we've touched a lot of topics today, but I'd love to just learn a little bit more of you from a personal standpoint. So is there anything interesting you'd love to share about yourself that would, let us all know who you are as a person?
Since moving to Sonoma County, I've been very involved in the community. I do it a number of different ways. When my kids were growing up, it was on the Little League board and coaching Little League, because that was the only sport I was anywhere near competent enough to coach at. But that was a big part of our life growing up, and helping with whatever organization or sport they were involved in. Very involved in the Santa Rosa Metro Chamber on kind of the political arm of that, which is their advocacy council. So monthly I meet with officials to discuss the business community and what we need as a business community to be successful here in Sonoma County. So we have the jobs and the housing that our employees need. I teach a class once a semester on employee benefits at Sonoma State for their HR certificate program. So I do that once a month, trying to give back to future HR leaders. And about a dozen years ago, somebody talked me into joining the Mark West School Board. So I'm an elected official technically, though I don't think I've ever had anybody run against me. So I don't know if that's for real or not. But yes, I am subject to all the laws elected officials are. And I'm on a school board, and that's been extremely fulfilling, bringing kind of the business end and supporting educators in providing the best education they can for our young people. And that's been better than I thought, and I've stayed a lot longer than I expected to. I thought once the kids moved on, I'd be off this school board and let somebody else do it. But they keep asking me to stay on and not leave. So I'm going to stay on for the time being and continue to give back in that area.
Well, true testament to the wonderful person you are, Vic, and the great giver that you are. And, I appreciate knowing you and calling you a friend, which is a great privilege that I have.
Likewise, Zane.
And I really appreciate your time today. As we like to close it out here, we do rapid fire questions. So
Great.
I have 5 questions for you. If you're ready, we can start.
Go for it. I have no idea what you're going to ask me, and I'm a little nervous, but go ahead.
They're very easy, super easy. Question number 1, what is your dream vacation?
My dream vacation, I would love to spend a month after I retire in Italy. Been there once, loved Italy, but I'd like to spend a month or two during a spring or fall, just bouncing around, maybe finding a place to be home and going off from there.
That is a great goal. Number 2, do you prefer audiobooks or paper books?
I have shifted to audio.
Me too. Number 3, if you had 20 minutes to exercise, what would that exercise be?
Interesting. It's always been cardio, except recently I've shifted to weights. And for some encouragement from some people who are much healthier than I have, I've been doing a little bit of lifting. Good
way to spend 20 minutes. Currently, what is your favorite piece of technology that allows you to live a better life?
That's a great question. I spend a lot of time on the phone. Not sure if it is leading to a better life, but keeping in touch with everything just like we all do. It's definitely a positive, and in being able to be linked up to the office wherever I go. I don't know if there's as much negative in that as there is positive.
I'm sure you're using it to stay in touch with those kids that are out of the house as well. So I'm sure there's some positive coming from it. Last question. What is your favorite childhood meal?
It was steak, a New York steak, for sure.
That's good as any.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Vic. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Zane. I really appreciate being here and hope the listeners get something out of it.
And with that, we end another Protea Conversations. Thank you for joining us in the journey of learning and inspiration. Today, we've gained insight from our guests and taken another step towards understanding the diverse tapestry of leadership in business and accounting. Remember, each conversation is a step towards the positive transformation of business leaders. We hope our discussion has given you valuable takeaways to apply in your own career and life. Don't forget to subscribe to Protea Conversations on YouTube and Spotify so you never miss an episode. We'd also love to hear your thoughts and experiences, so connect with me on social media channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn and would love you to join the conversation. Join us next time for more engaging stories, advice, and conversations that matter. Until then, keep striving for excellence and embracing growth. Thank you for listening, be kind, and goodbye from Protea Conversations.